Well, hello, everybody. Chip Walters here. It's high noon, and welcome into a fall sports update as we come to you via Zoom. And glad to have panelists who we'll be introducing here in just a moment. But really happy to have those of you out in cyberspace, wherever you might be today, watching this latest fall sports update. Coming up on Saturday will be a 4-week out until the beginning of the college football season across the country and the beginning of the Blue Raider football season. But want to welcome in Director of Athletics, Chris Massaro. How are you doing, Chris?
Great, Chip. Great to be here. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, too. Out at Gate 1A, we check in James Kentfield, Director of Ticketing. And, James, how are things out there in your office? Busy, I hope.
It has been nice. Yeah, we actually sold a couple season tickets last night and this morning, and I'm really liking that view behind you, Chip. So I'm looking forward to seeing that soon.
That's right. I hope so too. And down in the catacombs of Murphy Center, David Blackburn, Associate Athletic Director and in charge of the Blue Raider Athletic Association. David, hope all is well with your crew.
Yes, things are well, and thank you very much, Chip. Appreciate it.
Good deal. Today, not only are we talking about a fall sports update, today is Election Day across the state of Tennessee, and of course, a lot of local elections and local offices on the ballot today. And Chris, I've understand that they've had a huge early voting turnout, but we certainly want to encourage people to exercise their rights today.
Yeah, it's a great day in America. It's always a great day in our state, and it's a privilege that I tell myself not to take for granted, you know, and a lot of people have sacrificed a lot of things for us to have the ability to vote. So I would like to encourage our fans and neighbors and people to get out there and vote today. And Alan Farley is doing a great job as overseeing these elections, and so it'll be a smooth process for all involved, and so get out there and vote.
Well, I went the second day of early voting, and the procedures that they have for safety and the precautions that they've made, it is very smooth, and you feel very confident about the health situation if you go in there, as far as, you know, prevention of COVID-19, that kind of thing, which COVID-19 obviously has dominated our lives since March. And now, as we are just over 4 weeks from the beginning of football season, Chris, if you can kind of give us a little 50,000-foot view of where we stand today as we look forward to getting all fall sports, not only just football, but volleyball, soccer, and the other fall sports underway.
Yeah, Chip, and thanks. And we thought this would be a good time to give our fans and people and our stakeholders a bit of an update. And we don't have all the answers yet. You know, we're still plowing along, but with David and James, they're our primary folks that are trying to get, you know, that are putting together our plan to return to Floyd Stadium. And so about a month ago, it was probably longer than that we did a working group, and David's chair of that working group, just to put in procedures and study the issues of what it takes to have our events at Floyd Stadium. And he's done a great job with that. And so I know we've got a lot of questions on what the games might look like, and with James, and in particular with ticketing and those kind of things, Chip. So we thought it'd be a good idea to have these guys on.
Well, let's first of all talk about the elephant in the room, and that is the football schedule, and kind of address that very, very quickly. And early on here, obviously we know we lost 2 games, Duke and Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech was going to be a huge home game for the Blue Raiders at Floyd Stadium on September 19th. And then yesterday, you know, as luck would have it, Yukon became the first FBS level program to announce that they would not be playing football this year. So that means there are 3 non-conference dates at this point that you're looking to fill. So any news on that you can give us today?
Yeah, I actually do have some news, Chip. So we've had a kind of anticipating this scenario, we've been in talks with Troy quite a bit. And so what we're ready to do is really announce our intent to play Troy. We've not done contracts and those kind of things yet, but both Troy and us, we agree that this is our intent. And so what we would like to do, our ideal is to play week 1 in Murfreesboro against Troy University. There is a chance that could be week 3, but I think that week 1 is the preference of both. We just got to make sure state and local authorities are okay with us playing on September 5th. So we have that game in Murfreesboro, and then that November 21st, the week 12 week, would be where we would return to Troy. And it's a little bit unusual to play one opponent twice, but it really worked out for both of us. And the logic behind that, Chip, is really this, is that number one, we didn't have to mess up future schedules, with an oddball. So if we played it at home, then we would owe Troy a return. And that would have been difficult to schedule out in the future years. And is it really good for anybody to do that 6 or 7 years out? And does it mess up somebody's schedule? So we were able to cut a lot of that conversation out right away. The other thing is that we really don't have to pay each other guarantees and those kind of things. So in essence, it could be like a free home game for each of us. And it's just it's bus travel for our schools. So it's a very inexpensive road trip for both schools. So to us, it made a lot of sense to do the home and home. I'm excited about them because, as you well know, they're a rival of ours. That we had some terrific games with them. With the Sun Belt, there's a lot of history with Troy. So it's going to be kind of fun to rekindle that rivalry and to play them twice.
Well, and the Palladium Trophy may be dusted
Yes.
off, and who knows? I mean, I hope it stays exactly where it is right now, and that would be out in the Kennan Hall of Fame building.
That's our intent. I
Yep.
mean, and Danny Ferrer and some of the guys that created that thing, thank you so much. And it's a beautiful trophy. And I was teasing their athletic director the other day that he was asking about its whereabouts. And I said, I know exactly where it is. We're proud of that trophy because, man, that's a tough trophy. Troy's always been a quality opponent. And so we know exactly where it is. And it's great pride that it resides in Murfreesboro.
Well, James Kentfield is the director of ticketing, and James, are all of the season tickets? Do you have got 6 tickets, and are they blank? Or now that we're changing some home dates and things like that, what should people expect as far as tickets are concerned? Would they be paper tickets, or are we going to use this right here, which you can't really see on my virtual background, but that's my device with e-ticketing?
Well, Chip, I think you're definitely onto something there. Over the summer months, we put some work into making the season ticket booklet that we are very proud of. We've been producing for a few years with all the information that includes in there for fans. However, with the environment that we were in with COVID, and of course the fluctuating potential of the schedule and losses of games, printing tickets was not a very wise financial move for us. So we are really excited to be fully introducing mobile ticketing for the 2020 season. Of course, this is an option that we've had around for a few years for single game tickets. And then it really exploded last year with our student tickets, which was fantastic response. But this year, our season ticket holders will be receiving their tickets directly to their mobile devices. It's a very straightforward process. And once the schedule is completely finalized and those tickets are available, what we're going to do is we're going to email and mail everybody a very well thought out step-by-step process for folks to do that. It's a good step for us. It's very hard to go to any venue nowadays. I know, Nissan Stadium and the Preds, Ryman, my Nashville Soccer Club season tickets, everything is right on my smartphone. So not only is it convenient for the fans, it also allows us to continue to practice, good health measures here with contactless tickets. We don't have to be touching envelopes and mailing them to you, touching your tickets. And I'm really excited about that opportunity for fans to be able to do that.
So that's another big piece of information that we're putting out today is e-ticketing for all home football games this year. David Blackburn, who is Associate Athletic Director, and as Chris mentioned, chaired a working group to reopen facilities. And that may have been a little bit of the cart before the horse, but but that's a big piece of information there. David, talk about the process that you guys are going through right now looking like you're going to have a home game on September 5th against Troy. Does that talk about the process of getting the stadium ready and as far as seating capacities, whatever happens to be on your plate at this moment?
Yeah, a lot. As Chris said, 2 months ago, we formed a working group at his direction. So we've been working for several weeks now in preparation of this. We still are awaiting word, what will our capacity be for not only the general seating areas, but also our premium areas, our open air boxes and our suites. We don't know that yet. But once we hear that, we're certainly ready to mobilize. We've been working for many weeks on making sure from entry to residing in the stadium, ingress, egress, for all of the above, so that we're as clean as we can be, we're socially distanced as we can be. All the amenities are there like they have been, but also in a different way that they're safe. We certainly are not trying to reinvent the wheel, but we're trying to be creative, but at the same time copy what many people are doing. It's a new era. None of us have been through this, and so we're trying to be wise and collaborate with as many people as we can throughout the country, Chip. And we think we're prepared, and we hope we are. But we've been working on it for a while, and I think our patrons will feel safe and feel comfortable coming into our venues, and will feel space and will feel like the environment is as safe as it can be, and at the same time as fun, as exciting as it can be.
And James, to follow up one quick follow up on the question about e-ticketing, what about those that don't have a smartphone or just simply would like that hard ticket in their hand? How do you handle that?
Sure, and we know that that's going to exist. I know that there's some fans that don't have smartphones, and I understand that. So as we're going to strongly encourage everybody to learn and utilize this great opportunity for those folks, they'll still have the opportunity. We can print some tickets in the office here on our basic game day stock. And deal with that on a case-by-case basis. So when we send out that info, there'll be some instructions to contact us, and we can certainly take care of that for them.
Chris, every school in the country is going to have to make decisions, I guess, and I guess one of the questions is, who do you get your information from as far as when it is determined, is it going to be 25% capacity, 50% capacity, wide open, none? Is it leadership from the conference office? Is it our local and state governments and health departments? And how does all of that integrate and dovetail within where you can make a final decision on that?
Yeah, and that's really a great question, Chip. And we'll really kind of operate by the governor's guidelines, in the state of Tennessee, and what they say are for outdoor sporting events, and so whether that's at 50% capacity or 33% capacity, that number could fluctuate a little bit. So we're prepared to do both. I think it's really unlikely that there will not, that there will be, it's unlikely that there won't be any restrictions.
Yeah.
The likelihood is that we'll either be at 50% or 33%, and that's where most of our planning has gone. So with our stadium, that's where having a larger stadium does help. And so we can certainly, our two main groups, Chip, that we want to take care of, number one are our students.
Mm-hmm.
So any student that wants to come to the game, and in essence, they're our largest donors. and then number 2, our season ticket holders. So under both those scenarios, we have no problem accommodating both groups. The season ticket holder might be, that might not be the same seats they're accustomed to. And I apologize in advance for that, but it's just something that we're going to have to deal with COVID. And so somebody that maybe be sitting on the 40-yard line might end up on the 30-yard line kind of deal. But in order to spread everybody out, we're going to have to make those adjustments. And that's in the best interest for everyone's health and to really give college football its best chance to move forward and play games. We'll have to impose those kind of restrictions down.
Yep. I'll throw this out to whomever wants to take it. Part of the overall game day experience starts early with tailgating. I've seen certain schools have said, nope, no tailgating. You're going to park. You're going to walk in and e-ticket, that kind of thing. Is it too early to make any final determination on what will be and will not be allowed as far as tailgating is concerned?
We're all looking at each other for that. So I guess that they're wanting me to handle that hot potato. So David, go ahead, or James, go ahead. No, I'll do it. Chip, that's one of the questions that we don't have answered. And basically, you were talking about process earlier. And so this particular process will go through our university leadership team. And I've been part of that team. And we meet 3 times a week and to go over issues and those kind of things. So I think that there'll be a deeper discussion on tailgating next week and just what will be allowed, if it's allowed, and those kind of things. And I don't know what the outcomes will be. One possible scenario is maybe we don't do it for the games in September, and then we wait and see how it operates and then slowly let it go. Or we ban it altogether, or we just do, 10 people at a tailgate and keep the tailgaters isolated from pedestrian traffic. So those are kind of some of the options that we have that will be discussed next week with our university leadership team. All
right. Good to see we're getting some questions in here from our audience and from some media members. Joe Spears from the D&J checking in. He talked about the Yukon news, and you did mention that the most likely scenario for Yukon week will be a second game with Troy, that one being on the road at Troy. I'll let you kind of follow up on that a little bit more. And was the suddenness of their announcement, did that catch any of you all off guard? And follow that up with, because we've talked about one of those early 3 weeks, week 1 or week 3. The one we don't know, is there any potential slot filler for whichever one of those in week 1 or week 3 that you don't fill right now?
Yeah, and so let me do the first piece about the Yukon announcement. And their AD was terrific throughout this process, calling me, keeping me updated, those kind of things on the game. And so that was really a good thing. And so it was refreshing to have that from someone who's canceling the games. So anyhow, he did a really good job, and they're an independent, as you well know, Chip, and they lost games with the SEC announcement, the ACC announcement, and I think the Big Ten announcement. They'd lost, he told me, 6 games. He had 4 games against opponents that came from states that the state of Connecticut actually had travel restrictions on. And they do have a travel restriction on the state of Tennessee as well. So that game was problematic really for the last month or two. With that restriction, and so with such an iffy schedule that they decided that it's probably best to not play football this year. So that was what we'd anticipated that, and we'd been talking to Troy about that could be a possible date, and so it really worked in well for us that if you do a home and home, I think it's best for the opponents to have some games in between. You know, that was difficult a couple years ago when we did UAB literally back to back. And if we had done Troy on week 1 and week 3, that would have been a difficult thing to do too. So we like the idea of spreading the home and home out through different points of the season. So that part has really worked well for us. What was the second part of Joe's question?
Well, I guess I was following up on his question. If we go with the scenario that Troy is in pencil, in pencil on September 5th and November 21st. In any other thing happening as far as the September 19th date that was going to be Virginia Tech, and also what do we know about Indiana State at this point?
Right, and the FCS as a whole is a little bit iffy right now. That there's a lot of talk on whether FCS will play football. That there's an NCAA requirement that 50% of the membership has to be playing it to have an NCAA championship. And right now, with some of the cancellations of fall sports from some of the leagues, I think the number I was told is they're like at 55% right now. So there's a lot of debate, and so we'll know probably in the next week or so about the status of FCS. So we've got a couple people kind of as backup plans, so to speak, as we had with Troy. So I do think we'd have the ability to play another game or two. There's also a thought that maybe 10 is a good number if we can space those games out and try to play as many of those as we can. So we're going to try to shoot from anywhere from 10 to 12 games, Chip, on this thing, and kind of in a holding pattern, seeing what FCS as a whole nationally is going to do and what decisions they're going to make regarding football.
All right, David and James, comment from Wayne. What are the preliminary plans handling food inside the stadium, concessions, the stadium club, beer garden, things like that? Any thoughts on that at this point from either one of you?
Yeah, start with the concessions. Obviously, it'll be modified food, more prepackaged and more easy to handle for safety. Obviously, we'll have all the concession areas open for maximum distancing, as well as social distancing at the queues, the queuing the lines. Condiments will be no condiment stands. Condiments will be prepackaged. Every area will be sanitized for safety. As it relates to the club area food, it'll be no self-service buffet. It'll be a chef-attended buffet with plexiglass barriers. No self-serve anything, obviously. Lounge chairs will be removed to allow for spacing of tables. Mask requirement, obviously, for all the serving attendants, and very, very much a lot of precaution from Aramark, and the food distribution will be extremely modified, like you see in a lot of the restaurants for all of our areas. Beer garden quite likely will not be available. Obviously, we've had to make that adjustment for the clustering and the safety precautions we've had to look at there. That's obviously a decision that we didn't want to have to make, but that's one of the recommendations we've got forward. I can't remember what was the other area.
Beer garden.
Beer garden, yeah, that I think I addressed that.
Stadium club.
Club, yeah.
What about outdoor boxes?
Outdoor boxes, same thing with the Aramark. Their service will be a modified food service.
Prepackaged.
It'll be mostly prepackaged. We will still be able to have pre-game stocking for both the outdoor boxes as well as the suites. So that's still good. We will extend the time for the stocking to allow for social distancing and our elevator usage. And so our office here will certainly be in contact with all of our patrons to modify our time so that we can not have crossover of traffic, to make it more convenient for our patrons. So with what we know now with our expedited first game, we'll be reaching out here pretty quickly to make those assignments on our pregame stocking and so forth.
All right. Back to a media question from an MT alum, the show pony, Chris Childers from ESPNU Radio. And Chris Massaro, you may not know this, but I hired Chris Childers to be the baseball PA announcer. Actually, first started as softball PA announcer, and then he transitioned over to baseball, and we see where he is now. But his question is, how will TV revenue be impacted, if at all? And what are the overall financial implications of playing the schedule as we have it at this point, or is it just too early to tell?
Yeah, and first, thanks, Chris. I mean, he's one of those alums that we always brag about, and man, that
he remembers where he came from.
He does, and he has a great show, and I learned so much by listening to his show and that kind of thing. So, Chris, to be honest with you, our conference television package has taken a hit. We don't know how deep yet until we get some of the replacement games, but some of the marquee games that CBS was particularly interested in was one that we lost, was the Virginia Tech at Middle Tennessee. So that's going to hurt the TV package. Another game that comes to mind, there's two other games that really come to mind. Pitt was scheduled to play at Marshall, and that was a really attractive game to our TV networks. And then LSU was going to play at NRG Stadium against Rice, and that was Rice's home game, and that was part of our conference TV package. So right off the top, that they've lost really three marquee games. We're trying to make that up. That's one of the hopefully that they'll view our Troy game as a positive plus for the league as well. So it's a little early to tell kind of the depth of that problem, but it's definitely there by those leagues canceling our games for more of their conference games. That's damaged us as a league and damaged our TV package. There's no doubt.
I've had several questions that are somewhat similar, and I want to thank Christina, Don and Hannah, and anonymous attendee who they asked about cheerleaders, Band of Blue, and a follow-up, the students who have mandatory attendance, such as those, are what will be the mask requirement for that. But first of all, Band of Blue and cheerleaders, what is, and dance team, the spirit groups.
Yeah, you want me to take that, Chris?
Go ahead, Dave.
Sure, David.
Yeah, we're still waiting final word from the league. I think the league will do something uniformly to give us direction, but right now it may be that they limit all activity on the field with concerns of what happens on the field. So it may be that they limit the performances or the activity of band and certainly cheer and dance on the field. They'll obviously be allowed to do what they do in the stands and on game day, but it may be limited to on the field activity. We've not gotten that final word, but that's quite likely to be what happens. And as it relates to the band, we may have to look at social distancing them in their seating due to their instruments and projecting what happens when you play an instrument. And the Tennessee Pledge Guidelines has pretty strict requirements about the spacing from a footage perspective, and we've got a plan for that from where they are and in that northeast corner. So
I was going to say the configuration of the stadium and where they are will really kind of allow for that fairly easily, I would think.
Yeah, and we've certainly got to get these final words and then work with the band and the cheer and dance on that. And as we get more information, and it certainly seems like we're about to get that, we can implement those plans. So that's where we are with
and
that.
And Chip, visiting bands will not be allowed in the conference. So And I think there's a lot of talk of just limiting the number of spirit people on the field. And if there are on the field, then they'll be masked. The referees will be masked. Basically, anybody that's got a function on the field will be masked.
That will include, will they, do you anticipate them making the player box larger to be able to spread people out?
Great question. I think it runs from the 15 to the 15 now, so they expanded on 10 yards on each side. So we'll be able to social distance our benches better, and then there's a requirement that fans can't be so close to the end of the bench, which it does not present a problem at our stadium. So some stadiums, row one in our conference, literally hang right over the visitors' bench, and so there will be separation from the fans to the playing field in Conference USA.
Let's see here. From Darren, first of all, says go blue. We thank you for that. Question on how recruiting of the 21-22 players will be handled this season. Game day visits, fall or winter camps. I'm sure these are all those are questions that I'm sure are works in progress at this point.
They are, and in fact, we had a bit of an update on our CUSA AD's call today, and so there's a lot of talk to extend in the dead period now, and that's going to be a recommendation to be voted on next week to the end of October till 10:30 or 10:31. And so what that means is no official visits, no on-campus visits, those kind of things. So that's being discussed at the national level. That'll be a national rule. With recruiting, I'm all for those national rules, so nobody gains an advantage and those kind of things. So everybody is operating out of the same playbook, and that's been good so far. What we've told the coaches is you got to continue to be innovative, because we're going to have to recruit and rely less on the in-person and the official visits. I mean, they may have to visit FaceTime, and walk them through buildings and those kind of things. And so we need to make it as personal as we can and give them a good flavor of our culture, because that's one of the things that sells the best is the culture that we have in our athletic department and on our campus. So when kids do come to visit, they're likely to sign with us. So we need to make sure we capture that and are able to deliver that remotely.
While football is such a visible part of what's going on right now, it's not the only sport that is on campus and preparing. Soccer camp ready to open. What is the impact on, I think what you have, there's 6 sports that are now reporting. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, I'll have to add them up for you, Chip. We've got soccer started their camp actually this week. So those kids are out there working hard and really like this team. There's a couple of seniors that have been terrific players for us. And so they're excited to have their senior season. And so through all these talks, we have to keep them in mind. They've lost a bit of their non-conference schedule as well. So they will not start playing until towards the end of September for real games. Volleyball is very much the same situation, is that they actually have lost every non-conference game. So right now, the only games on their schedule is the 13 conference teams. So we may try to pick up another game or two for those guys, but they're not going to really start until the end of September as well. So those game competitions will start there, but they're going to start their camps. Chip, I think it's really important for people to get into their routine as much as possible. And yeah, that the COVID, and we've got to learn how to manage those risks and reduce those risks as much as possible. But I do worry about the mental health of these student athletes, and to be able to get them in routine and get them into practicing. You can just see how uplifting that is for all of them. So that part's going forward. We're trying to communicate with them best we can to make sure that's exactly what they want to be doing. So to answer your question, we've got soccer, volleyball, football, men's and women's basketball now have reported, and cross country. And so then at the start of school on August 24th, the rest of our sports will come in as well.
Okay, James and David, for you, talk about refunds on tickets. If number one, if folks just decide, you know, I want to opt out of my tickets this year, are you able to give refunds, or would you ask that they wait for that? Obviously, if the season, instead of 6 games, you end up with 4 or 5 at home, that would happen later. And also, David, the importance of people to continue what they're doing from a financial support mechanism for athletics, because I think it's as important this year as ever. But James, if you would address the refund policies, whether it's single game or season ticket now or even later at this point.
Absolutely. So we're very proud that right from the jump of early April, we sat down and Chris knew, and we all agreed that this was going to be a very unusual, unique, and trying time for fans. So we wanted to give them the comfort to know that there would be a Blue Raider ticket guarantee. And we stated from early April and through all of our communications for renewals and new season ticket purchases that if the schedule was altered in any way, that there would be financial options for fans. Now, of course, before I jump into those, I definitely want to remind everybody that, again, it's a very unique time for us. And the athletic department is certainly going through different financial hardships, as you will, as we are obviously facing a little bit of still uncertainty here. And, one of the options that we had recommended to fans is that they take their season ticket purchase and move that to a 100% tax deductible contribution to the BRAA. Of course, because we still need to fund our programs, and we need to support and fund these scholarship opportunities for the young men and women that wear a Blue Raider jersey each week. And of course, another option would be to go ahead and roll your funds over to the 2021 season. So if you just wanted to go ahead and say, I'm going to go ahead and commit to the next season now, that would be a second option. And then in the event that you are concerned about attending games, you're physically unable to, you're concerned about the environment, then on request, a refund would be an option as well.
And David, the opportunity for those who are supportive to continue, and the importance of their continued support financially at this juncture is very, very important.
Yeah, well, obviously these times have been hard on so many, and we know that, and we want to be sensitive to that for everybody. But it's been hard on college athletics as well, and certainly hard on us. And so as James said, I mean, if it's very important right now. So if anyone can certainly give, we need that, and we would love that. We're so appreciative of what we have, and our athletes are very appreciative, and so are our coaches. And we couldn't do what we do without the support of those that have been with us and that are with us now. And so, as always, and as James just so eloquently did, we do need the support and continued support. So anything is much appreciated, and it's a tough time right now for everybody, and we do understand that. But as Chris often mentions, I mean, gosh, watching what our student athletes do every day, and I'm amazed. And I've been here 2 years now. Academically, what we do is just incredible, and it's really something to see. Yeah, it's important. If you can donate and give, it's a great cause, and it's wonderful to see.
Had a question about concessions here, and you're always open for great ideas. Brent Campbell with an idea here. He goes, would you ever think about making the beer garden area into a full-blown concession area where you could pick up a drink and something to eat and move on from there back into the stands in an area that would include those alcohol sales?
Hey, we're open to anything right now. That's a good idea. And yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of questions right now, not a whole lot of answers. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Good. I mean, that's one way. Obviously, there's a lot of room down there.
Yeah, and Chip,
Yeah.
the conference may limit the number of people, like I said earlier, that have access to the
Okay.
field, so that the players are more protected. So we would have to clear that through the conference as well.
Don and Hannah asking a question. How are you handling testing at this time? What is the result? How quickly are you able to get results and reporting?
As always, it's good to hear from Donna and Hannah, and it's a very good question as well. So basically, what we do is we test every student athlete when they come to campus. So when they report that they get their testing, and so all those sports I mentioned have been tested, and they're able to participate. We were having problems. It was about 4 weeks ago, of turnaround times from a particular lab. I mean, it would be 7 to 10 days before we would get our test results. So that made the isolations and quarantines really difficult and lengthy. And really, through Lamar Alexander's office, he put us on to through Dr. McPhee and Chairman Smith, put us on to another more local lab, and our turnaround time has gotten much better. So now we're 3 or 4 days on our turnaround times, and looking to increase that better as it gets into the season. So we tested everybody, and now what we're doing is what's called surveillance testing, Chip, and so where we take a segment out of each group and test them to make sure that there's not any positives or we've got a deeper problem. So we're continuing to surveillance test. Our goal is to have, I think the whole football team will be tested twice by in the next 10 days. They'll have at least 2 tests for everybody since they reported. Then we'll integrate volleyball and soccer in on the second wave of their tests as well. So when we get into the season, the conference is going to require that we do a PCR test, which is right now is a nasal swab, and you have to do that 72 hours prior to the competition, no later than 72 hours. So what we don't want to have happen is you test on Monday, that's too much lag time. So we want to have them tested on Wednesday before a football game and have those results. So we've got some assurances that the teams that we play against and our team has been tested, and the chances of somebody having COVID are greatly reduced on that. So it's going well. We've learned a lot in the last 6 weeks. It's been a challenge at times. Sometimes the quarantining can be difficult, and it's hard to tell roommates that you can't go anywhere for 14 days when they're feeling fine. And I think our players and student athletes are coming to a really good understanding about that, and know that that's one of the things that they have to do to give them the best chance to have sports this fall.
As far as I mean, is there regular reporting, or how are you, what is your policy on that, as far as, because I know there are privacy issues and things like that.
Yeah, that every Thursday we put out on the university website basically the numbers information. So number of students that have tested positive and a number of student athletes that have tested positive. So we'll go with the numbers. We just can't get into individuals and those kind of things. So, and that's been one of our questions, quite honestly. Some of the teams have asked me is like, can we know who's tested positive? Because they want to know. And by HIPAA regulations and those kind of things, we cannot tell them. So we've had to kind of explain that, because that runs a little counter to what what might be an intuitive thing for them, that they didn't realize that you cannot release the names and tell others who's tested positive.
Jennifer asks, has Middle had any athletes opt out of their season, and wants to thank all of the panelists and those who are not on here, but staff members and coaches for the hard work to try to make fall happen.
Yeah, and thanks, Jennifer. And we put that in front of our student athletes 2 or 3 weeks ago. We were one of the first in the country to offer an opt-out arrangement with our student athletes. And it's quite simple philosophy to me. I mean, I would want it if I was a parent or student athlete. If somebody's not comfortable playing and under these conditions, I get it. I understand that there should be no ramifications of it. Their scholarship's intact. They may have a different situation, whether they've got vulnerable people at home, those kind of things that they're trying to protect. Everybody's situation's a little bit different. And college sports are still a voluntary activity, and so we need to make sure our players and student athletes understand that. So we've got, as far as I know today, we've had one football player on an opt-out, and I know we've got another student athlete in another sport that's considering it, and so what we're talking about on the opt-out is, and not to be punitive in any way, but if they're nervous about team activities and those kind of things, then yeah, that we'll have to find other arrangements. So they shouldn't be in the locker room and those kind of things, and being around other student athletes. And so that safety kind of works both ways too, where because we won't necessarily know where that student athlete's been all the time either. So we'll make some adjustments and kind of limit where they can be involved in our program. But our expectation is that they'll train themselves, and also that their academics will provide all the academic support that they need, because they need to keep their academics going, and then their scholarship will be untouched.
Athletics is a business, and we've talked a little bit about it, and things that you have to balance: costs, revenue. Testing is not free. And when we talk about all of this, David spoke about more concession staff. James has talked about his game day staff, to get what may be a limited number of people into the game. So there's that balance. And the testing part of it, I think people may not realize that is an expensive proposition.
It is, and it's expensive, and it's cumbersome, and it's also takes a lot of staff time that normally in normal years would be doing something else. So you really have these hidden labor costs as well, Chip. So it has strained us, and those kind of things financially. You look at losing the Virginia Tech game by the ACC choosing to play conference games rather than non-conference games. So in my view, they chose to play others instead of us, and it wasn't necessarily COVID related. It was more ease, and I think there's some finances to that. But that was a game in normal situations we would have sold very well. So we kind of had targeted this game as to drive a lot of home revenues. And now losing that game has hurt us financially, and that not being able to make it up with limited stadium capacities and those kind of things has hurt us. So we've been doing budget work all summer long as well, and kind of got budgets that match each scenario and those kind of things. And so what will our budget look like if we don't play football? What will our budget look like if we play 8 games, if we play at a third capacity? We've done those what if scenarios, so we've got draft of plans we maybe don't have all that meat on the skeleton, until we have more of a finite course, but we've done all those scenarios. I think we're as well prepared as we could be financially and also kind of operationally to deal with any kind of changes in direction we might have. And what I tell our staff, and I'll tell our fans, and I'll tell our coaches, that right now our schedule is out there, and we know pretty much what it is. Yeah, we've got a little bit of if on Troy, where that's going to be, we're going to open with them on September 5th or September 12th, but we know we have an opener. And we know we've got those 8 conference games. We know we have Indiana State. So there is some certainty to our schedule. We all have to be smart enough to know that and be ready to pivot if that changes. But that's the direction, and that's the primary planning we need to be doing. So our student athletes need to be ready for those games. Our coaches need to be, our staff needs to be operationally, all those kind of things. So until somebody tells us differently, that's how we're going to go, and that's how we're going to plan.
Okay, catching up on a couple of questions that came in. Jonathan House, one we covered earlier about the Band of Blue. While they will not be marching a show, 300 people into an area we've already mentioned, and David talked about that area would just simply expand to where it met the requirements for the Band of Blue to have the proper social distancing. You've touched on about the Troy game being on the 5th or the 12th, or the 5th or the 19th.
Right.
And is part of that due if the governor extends or does not allow the season to start that weekend? Is part of that in your thinking as well?
It is, Chip, and I need to, it's pretty fresh too, and so I've not run that by kind of all parts of our campus to make sure that they're ready for a September 5th game, because that represents a week earlier than what we were going to operate. So our intent's to play the 5th. I don't have all the approvals on that, but so we'll go through that, and it does depend on the state. I think I haven't looked this up because we could be like the first college football game to be played in the state if we play it on home on the 5th. And so I know Vanderbilt and UT are delayed. I'm not quite sure what Memphis's schedule is. So if we're not, we'll be right in there at an opener and kind of be a precedent setter for the rest of the state.
Joe Spears asking about those Virginia Tech and Duke games that were lost. Is there an opportunity or any just initial conversations that they could show up back on the schedule in future years?
Yeah, and I mean, that's one of the things. Those were home and home games, and so there has been some talk. I think Duke was going to send me some dates. I've not gotten those yet. I'm postponing those. Have not really. Virginia Tech said that's their intent as well. We've got to study and make sure the dates aren't so far out, because as I said, that we've been damaged this year by their change of direction, and so and choosing to play 10 conference games instead of 8 conference games. So we'll have to evaluate all of that and to make sure that we come out as best we can, and I'm hoping we can find a real cooperative solution here that really hits and is best for all the schools.
Let's see, a couple of others that we had here real quickly. Somebody followed up about suites and open air boxes. We did address that, and if you are a suite holder or an open air box holder, I am positive that you will be communicated with directly. Let's see here. Wayne asking, are there any restrictions being imposed on student athletes attending parties or other social activities at this point?
Absolutely. And we've asked them to it's their responsibility to stay out of harm's way. and we are truly linked together, and coaches and staff have to exhibit that behavior as well. So it's just not student athletes, and so our coaches have to be careful. I do not want them going to some big backyard pool parties or barbecues and those kind of things where they're putting our sport at risk and the chance to operate at risk. So we're asking people outside Murphy Center to wear your mask, to be good citizens, to follow those kind of guidelines that are best practices, along with our student athletes. I think too many times we just point at the student athletes, and we all have a responsibility in that thing. And so I was thrilled when Mayor Ketron passed the mask mandate for Rutherford County, Chip, and our numbers have gone down. And our student athletes kind of expressed to me that a couple of them that they feel safer kind of in the Murphy Center, but when they go out and they go shopping or they try to do their errands and they see people without masks, that makes them nervous. So we're asking student athletes, our fans, our coaches, our staff members to be good citizens. We can control to a degree how we deal with this disease and how we can mitigate the odds and reduce the risk, and by doing some simple things, washing the hands, social distancing, and wearing masks. So absolutely, we're asking our student athletes not to do it, but it's deeper than the student athletes as well.
All right, James, let's going under what we have heard here today from you and Chris and David. We've talked about that. We don't know full answers on tailgating yet, but I think there would be an expectation that there would be some level of that. Looks like we're going to have a home game either on September 5th or the 12th or the 19th in there somewhere. Walk me through when that fan pulls in the parking lot, and let's say they have their chicken salad sandwich or whatever they might have, and it's time to walk into the stadium. Walk us through that process of what they will experience when that happens.
Well, I know that we're going to be, encouraging people to be practicing safe social distancing out in the common areas, and obviously there's still some unanswered issues there with tailgating, and as we move forward, we'll look at that.
Well, in the concourses, will there be, for lack of a better term, hall monitors out there trying to just encourage people to do the right thing?
Yeah, and we I know that one of our assistant athletic directors, Larry Maples, has been working on a ton of very clear-cut signage with asking fans to go one way on staircases and exiting and entering bathrooms and restrooms specifically. And I know there's been a lot of work and details put into concessions and trying to make sure that those lines are all social distance. Of course, just like many major retailers that we are looking, we have the large stickers that will be on the ground asking people to social distance as they're coming through the gates. Obviously we want to make sure as much of that is contactless as possible. So hopefully that will even encourage people to not bring their smaller bags. We went with kind of a clear bag type of policy. But we are, the big thing for us will be once we find out how many fans we're allowed to have in the stadium, and how many additional tickets that we'll have to sell on a single game basis, just making sure that we have proper communication out to fans on how they can get their tickets and what entrance points that we'll be encouraging them to go through. I do know that, we've got 4 great main entrances into the stadium. And, if people can attempt to enter the stadium near their ticketed entry point, that will obviously ease pressure on certain gates to get in and get out.
So, and again, e-ticketing, that's one of our major headlines today that should come out of this, that will be the primary way that exclusive e-ticketing and season ticket holders, should be on the lookout for communication that'll be coming your way. And from Director of Athletics Chris Massaro. It looks like we're going to be opening with Troy on September 5th. If not then, possibly on that Virginia Tech weekend, but still, that's those details left to work out. As we wrap up here today, I want to go around the room, and I'll start with David. Any final thoughts, comments you want to get out there today?
I just thank everybody for joining, and it's exciting, but also, we've not been through this, but I do want to encourage everybody to come out and hopefully feel safe. We've put a lot of thought in what we've prepared for what we think is a safe return to Floyd Stadium, and it is new and it's different, but hopefully it'll be a safe environment, socially distanced, and hopefully a fun experience for everybody.
James, final thoughts from you today?
Yeah, I did want to add real quick. I've gotten a couple text messages and answered a couple of the Q&A questions about transferring of tickets as well. I know that there are some fans that share tickets or maybe box holders, and that will be an option. You'll be able to transfer your tickets via your mobile devices. So that'll be an additional piece that will be explained on that step-by-step process. Again, very straightforward. Final thoughts. I'm really excited to get back to work here and get this place open. I know how hard these young men and women, all of our student athletes, have been working, and how much of a unique situation this is for them. So I'm gladly wearing my mask all over town, and I've got my office door shut right now, but we're working in our small ticket office with them on, and we're ready to go. And I know that fans are going to be excited to finally get back out and see a live sporting event too. So I'm excited about all the hard work that we've put in over these last few months, preparing to give our fans a great, safe show.
Chris, we've had numerous comments pop up on the chat function, thanking everyone on this panel for answering difficult questions on this upcoming season, and knowing that anybody that's in business, when you work really hard for one set of plans, you guys are having to do that for basically 2 or 3 or even more sets of plans. But again, thank all of you for your time today. And Chris, I'll give you the final word today.
Well, and Chip, I appreciate that. And that's only possible with great people and great staff. And you see two of them here, but there's tons, and I hope our fans realize that there's tons of other tremendous employees that have really put a lot of hard work in trying to make this thing go. I got to give a lot of credit to our student athletes. That, Chip, I'm amazed when I go out there, and I've seen a couple football practices, and they're out there in the 100-degree weather working out outside, and they're wearing their masks. And if you look at the pictures on GoBlueRaiders.com and those kind of things, that our women's basketball players are working out wearing their masks. And to me, that tells me how much they want to play, and they're willing to do all of that to be able to play. And so I hope it happens for them. I think the other questions that people have is when and who makes those decisions. The presidents of our conference will ultimately make that call on they have a phone call. They have a meeting tomorrow. I don't know if any decisions will come out of that meeting, but they're meeting with regularity, and that's one of the things is to talk about the status of fall sports. So those decisions will be made. The NCAA, I think the Division I level, that they want to know whether we intend to have, as a membership, Division I fall championships. And I think yesterday, if I have this right, that they put a deadline of August 14th on that. So next week could be a big week on the future of fall sports. So we'll see kind of how it all develops and how it all comes to be. If the NCAA does pull the plug on the championships, that does not mean that you can't play conference games and those kind of things. So I don't want our student athletes or our fans necessarily to be confused if there is some sort of announcement to that effect. So presidents will make these decisions, you know, and I think in some states that are more hot spots than other states, then there might be some gubernatorial decisions that will play into that as well.
Well, and one of the other good pieces of news, you talked about numbers going down, is Tennessee is now off the White House watch list, which that was good news as well. We did have one other note from the mom of an incoming freshman football player, and she wanted to thank all of you as well. And I know that when you get that kind of feedback, it makes you feel good.
That means a ton, yeah, because that's what you know, you wrestle with this, and I told the staff I'm deeply conflicted, you know, and so you want to reduce the risk as much as you can, and just like concussions, I cannot eliminate them. I cannot eliminate the risk of COVID. Neither can Dr. McPhee on our campus when we start classes on August 24th, but we can do everything in our power to reduce it and to make sure everybody has a great experience. So I appreciate her saying that. We want to make sure we're in this together, and that's the most important thing.
Absolutely. All right, that's going to wrap it up for us today. Again, if you missed any of this, it will be up on YouTube here shortly, and will be available to see on GoBlueRaiders.com. I think Nathan Wallach and his crew doing outstanding work, and the entire athletic communications office just putting out tons of content. So continue to follow there, and GoBlueRaiders.com, which by the way has a wonderful new look, is the great hub for all news that is Blue Raiders. And also our radio partner WGNS will be carrying the audio portion of this coming up very, very soon. Could be tonight. Just be on the lookout for that as well. So for James Kentfield, David Blackburn, and Chris Massaro, this is Chip Walters saying thanks for being with us today as we get ready for Blue Raider football and Blue Raider fall sports coming up. And all the while, continue to be loud, be proud, and be blue. Good afternoon,
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.